Good morning. Buenas tardes. I call this meeting to order at 6:53 p.m. Present tonight are Director Tytler, Director After, Director Kuhlenberg, and myself, meaning we have a quorum. Thank you to our interpreter, Rodrigo. Would you please share the interpretation instructions with our participants? And then we can turn on the interpretation function.
Sure. Are we going to recognize Director DeFreitas online and have her participate in voting? If so, we should probably include her.
She might
as
not
part
be
of the
back
quorum.
ready to go yet,
Yeah.
but she said she would be online.
And Director DeFreitas might be joining us later on in the meeting. Did the interpreter give instruction? Thank you. Tonight we want to just share some thoughts and prayers with the Jefferson School District community. There was an event earlier today. Our colleagues are on that school district. Our colleagues serve on the board in that school district, and they are partners of ours, peers of ours that we respect. And it's an unfortunate event, but we want to just make sure we extend our thoughts and prayers and our condolences at this time. The first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any proposed changes to the agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion passes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Our next agenda item is our opening celebrations and updates by the superintendent, Dr. Nicole.
All right. Well, welcome to everyone. It's nice to have a lot of attendees here tonight. And welcome. We want to welcome the entire school community to week 3 of the 25-26 school year. In lots of classrooms, routines are in place. Our schools are bustling. The hallways are quiet because kids are actively learning. It feels really good in our schools. Want to celebrate a few things and start with celebrating and acknowledging nearly 2,300 families who have completed the educational benefits application. This is a new tool, and it's an essential tool for connecting families to financial resources and, importantly, helping the district ensure that we are accessing state and federal funding to support students in schools. And so specifically want to thank our front office teams and family liaisons who are really on the front lines of communicating and supporting families with that application, especially Christy Helms, the Family Resource Center program manager, who's helping to coordinate individual outreach. Want to also thank Octavio Maese and Sandra Ponce, who are a nutritional services team leadership crew, and they really process all 2,300 of those applications. Want to thank Nancy Deaver and our student data system, who make sure that that data goes to the state and the federal government so that we get the revenue that we need to support our students. Christina Vargas, who developed a new, very snappy video. I hope you've all seen it, that explains the educational benefits application and why it's important to get that completed. And then really want to shout out the students in our Equity Advisory Council, who last year, when we consulted with our students, we asked them, how can we better share information with your parents? And they said, Instagram, put it in a very short and snappy video. So we did what they told us, and we've got higher engagement and completion of those applications than we've ever had at this time of the year. So that's a big deal. And we're really grateful for the students and Christina and the whole team. We are in the middle, believe it or not, at week 3. We are right in the heart of the beginning of school year student assessments. So DIBELS, Lectura, NWA Math and Reading are all happening. And so want to thank the teachers and staff, administrators, making sure we get this essential baseline data for our students so we can monitor and track their growth throughout the year. And then finally, I want to celebrate the Riverview School team. I've been in the district a long time, but have never gotten to see the Super Scholar celebration that happens every Friday. It's a monthly tradition celebrating students who exemplify the school's core values. And it was really impressive to see the buddy system at Riverview in action, which means that the 4th and 5th graders all brought their little buddy preschooler to the assembly to really model good behavior and how we show up together to celebrate Super Scholars. And it was really great to see, I think 100% of the Super Scholar families who were also present to celebrate their children's accomplishments. So kudos to the Riverview team and to September Super Scholar kiddos. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, it kicked me out of the agenda. No. Okay, the next business in order is the superintendent report featuring the 3 following topics: family update, enrollment update, student growth achievement data, school and district performance frameworks. And each board member will now have 2 minutes to share comments and questions. No? After the update.
Yeah, I think we're gonna present some slides first. With me is our Dr. Stacy M. Park, our Assistant Superintendent, Chief Academic Officer, and also Kelly Medina, Director of Student and Family Services. We have a couple of things in the superintendent report for today. We're going to provide the board and community with some enrollment updates. There were questions at the last meeting. We know this is of high interest to our board and community. There was also a question at our last meeting about how we're supporting families around enrollment, around student movement. So Kelly Medina is going to present on that. And then we'll jump over to Dr. Park doing a very high level overview of our student data, school and district performance frameworks. The board just had a pretty significant deep dive on that data in our work session. So before we get started, just want to remind the board and community that last fall we consulted with a demographer to do a demographic study of our enrollment. We identified that the Roaring Fork schools will be experiencing declining enrollment for the next 10 years. This was somewhat of a surprise for us, and we know that it also complicated some of the financial challenges we had last year because we projected that enrollment would grow and budgeted for an increase, but actually we had a decrease that we had to address in our budgets. So we knew that when we headed into the 25-26 school year, we needed to be very conservative in terms of our student enrollment projections. And so we used the demographer's projections to build our budgets. We were still concerned as to whether those projections would be accurate. And so the senior leadership team has been working since the summer to develop kind of tighter monitoring systems in terms of enrollment. And then we began some contingency planning this summer. We're still in a monitoring phase on enrollment because, as the board is aware, the final data, the actual data that will drive the revenue that we get from the state based on enrollment won't happen until October count. And we will have a more nuanced report for the board and community at the end of October, early November about that. But we do have some current information about enrollment. And so kind of the high level information is that when the board packet came out, we were about 100 students under what we have budgeted. We're actually, as of today, about 120 under what we've budgeted. That is concerning. The estimated impact of current enrollment losses is about $500,000 deficit as compared to the budget revenue, specifically around per pupil revenue. This is very isolated and incomplete information holistically in terms of the 25-26 budget. So we share this so that you know that we're monitoring it, that we're concerned, we're starting to wrap some numbers around it, but we're not seeing the way that plays out with our entire 25-26 budget. So what we're doing right now is we are carefully assessing any new expenditures. We will be starting to deep dive into our budgets again to kind of look at budgets to actual. Do we actually think we're going to be spending some of the dollars we've allocated this year? We've also instituted a hiring check and pause process for open positions where we've created some questions before we just move forward on hires to make sure that those are aligned and key and that we can't cover the scope of work any other way. So I want the board to know that we're proceeding cautiously. We're monitoring carefully, we're proceeding cautiously, and we'll have more information for you in the coming weeks and months. One of the questions, because we know the board brought this up at the last meeting, is actually beyond the financial impacts of this is concerns about families and well-being. if we're seeing a decrease in enrollment, where are our kids and families going? We have some initial data on that. There was more detail in the memo. I would say very high level what we're seeing. I think there was a lot of concerns about potential causes of student movement, family movement. And I would say our assessment here is that it's not one thing, it's a whole lot of things. It's cost of living, it's current culture and climate around immigration activities, it's opportunities out of state, it's economics. There's a lot of different components weighing into this. So again, we're tracking, we'll continue to monitor all these pieces and update you during October count. And importantly, we will continue to connect families to resources and supports from a well-being standpoint. And so we're really happy to have Kelly Medina here to share with you all how we partner with families and the components and programs and services and partnerships we have in place to support families.
Thank you. So thanks for having me here. Just like Anna or Dr. Cole was explaining, although the withdrawal data can reveal some trends and offer some insight, it doesn't reveal the complex reasons why families are making their decisions and just some of the hardships that they're experiencing and having to navigate. So just wanted to just clarify that. And then what we're doing right now is, instead of focusing on individual decision making and their choices, our energy is really directed on continuing to provide wraparound services so that families and students have access to resources, that they have trusted adults, and that they're still building relationships in their school building, and that they have the tools in place so that they can continue to support their student learning and their social emotional. We know that this work is the right work, and the district's going to continue to prioritize this work under strategic priority student-centered partnerships. And so part of that initiative is to ensure that we're training staff in best practices on how to partner with families, and also align a companion toolkit for parents too, so it mimics what we're training staff on, that parents can have access to it too, to better support their child at home. So along these new initiatives, our core work remains the same. So our family liaisons are still providing comprehensive wraparound supports to make sure that we're supporting families mitigate barriers. And we're also still utilizing the CMP and family meetings that Dr. Cole has spoken on the previous board meeting, where we're really coordinating with county partners to make sure that we're trying to wrap around these families as best as we can and get them access to either financial assistance or additional support. We're going to continue to elevate our family voice through our Circle of Parents, our Family Advisory Council, and Equity Advisory Council. And this is really the space where parents can come in and give us critique, and also really support with policy decision-making and make sure that we're responding in a culturally responsive way. Our staffing remains at 90%. We started at 100%. It's at 90% as of today. But we're still ensuring that we have access at the schools, and that we're continuing to build trusted relationships, and we're still going to continue to build our presence there. Our teams working with Christina Vargas in communications to make sure that any communication to parents is aligned to our values and our core work when it comes to, really supporting parents, understanding the importance of attendance, reading to their child at home, and also healthy habits. And finally, we're still leaning really strongly on vital partners in the community, such as Mountain Family for integrated health, Stepping Stones for that pro-social after-school support, and Aspen Hope Center, especially when we're talking about mental health and crisis response. And finally, I did want to give a special shout out to Valley Settlements Parent Mentor Program. They contributed over 8,000 hours last year in parent mentors and volunteers across the 7 schools, which really helped straighten our classroom capacity and our family school connections. And they will continue the work this year with the parent mentors that we've welcomed into our buildings. Additionally, their Bucecito program prepared 36 preschool students who are now in kindergarten. So now they're in our kindergarten classrooms. And together we just want to highlight, especially with this partnership, that we're really elevating family partnerships, and also making sure that as a district, we're not just relying on one program or one initiative, that it's really comprehensive and it's really intentional. And the other piece that I wanted to lift up was the work that Anna was sharing about the educational benefits application. That even though in our current immigration climate and parents being really afraid of sharing their information, the work that we've done has been really intentional. It just shows in the effort and in the numbers that we're seeing, and the fact that they're trusting us with that, and that we're able to still provide them that resource and making sure that they have access to that. And again, I just want to emphasize the intentional work of these teams and not just building trust, but building long-lasting relationships and making sure that parents feel like they have a trusted adult and that their students are ready to learn. And that at the front and center, we are really intentional about this work because we always want to put the child and their families first. And that's the most important thing in order for them to be successful academically.
Thanks, Kelly. Yep. Appreciate that time and appreciated the question at the last meeting of how our families were doing. Let's shift to an overview of data and school and district performance frameworks from Dr. Park.
Great. Thank you. Can I have that? Awesome. Good evening. Thank you. I'm going to start out with our preliminary school and district performance frameworks. And these are actually the ratings that are shared on these two slides. The PDFs of the full frameworks will be available in December on SchoolView for the public. Could start with some celebrations. Actually, if you look on the right-hand column in 2024-25 school year, you'll see that as a district, we have improved from accredited with improvement to green accredited, which is exciting, and it's a really big celebration. But more than that, we have many schools, notably Basalt Middle School, Basalt Middle School, Riverview, Glenwood Springs Middle School, who have improved from a rating of improvement last year to performance this year. We're really excited to see that. There's been some really strong work from those teams and leadership from those leaders there to achieve that. And of course, the hard work of the kids and families who attend the school as well. The growth in an accredited with improvement rating to accredited is largely due to increases in growth percentages in elementary and middle school, CMAS, ELA, and middle school access growth. And we also have some bright spots in the PSAT, SAT, EBRW for our multilingual learners and students with disabilities. And a big celebration for a reduction in our dropout rates for across all subgroups from last year, or from 23-24 to 24-25. This is a testament, I think, to the systems work, the improvement, the continuous improvement of the teams, and really keeping a focus on making sure we're appropriately supporting our students. We have one school who has moved down, Glenwood Springs Elementary, from improvement to priority improvement. They are well aware. We've been in ongoing conversations about how they are responding and addressing the rating, and of course, working with their teams, their families, a community, and their staff to create a response plan. And the board will hear more about that in the next month. You can see the historical sort of change over the last 4 years. And again, this is where we make a point to try to have systems change and lasting change over time. It sometimes can feel slow, but it's really intentional. You might remember in the 22 school year, we launched the Learning Acceleration Plan as we were still within the first couple of years of the pandemic. We had intentional investments made in staffing, coaching, curriculum, our deans of culture to support attendance, reduce suspension rates, and our MTSS plan and program. And I think this is one example and demonstration of that work. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit into our Access, CMAS, and SAT suite. These are our state assessments that our students take Access in January, and then, of course, the state assessments later in the spring. In terms of our Access data, this is the English language acquisition assessment. It assesses listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And our median growth percentile is 57. It's higher than the MGP for the state, which was 51. And that has been, I'm going to actually show this over here. You can see it distributed by grade level here, and then it's by elementary, middle, and high school levels on the next slide. A particular celebration is that our long-term English learners number has been reduced to about 10% of the total NEP LEP population. NEP is non-English proficient. LEP is limited English proficient. We have a total of about 1,390 students who took the Access assessment last year. We're highlighting also the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade cohort year-over-year growth
to see them and how they have improved over time. We'll continue to leverage the CLDE staff on working with teachers to support students throughout the full day beyond ELD classes. And we'll continue to celebrate this work and build on it to make sure that we're also seeing the results in our CMAS and PSAT, SAT assessments. And here are the median growth percentiles by level as well, elementary, middle, and high school. Okay, moving on to our CMAS. This is where all 3rd through 8th grade students are tested on ELA and math. Overall, I'm not going to go through each slide, but just a quick summary of what you see in these slides are that the overall achievement and growth are demonstrated for disaggregated groups as well. In terms of overall achievement, we have 37.3% of test takers meeting or exceeding grade level expectations, and it is lower than the state, which is 44.8%. We do year over year have notable achievement increase for 4th, 5th, and 7th grades, and as well as a 7th grade cohort. When we look at growth, I'm going to actually skip here and then I'll come back, but growth over here above 50 means that, or 50, and median growth percentile 50 means a student made about a year's worth of growth or improvement. Above 50 is more than a year, and below 50 is less than a year. And so we always want to get at least 50, if not higher. But you can see for this year, our growth for CMS ELA exceeds the state. And what you don't see here, but it is true, it exceeds our pre-pandemic rates of growth, which was from 2018-19, which is the last school year we had before a couple years pause with the pandemic. A couple things I actually want to highlight here for our board and our viewers is you'll see the disaggregated achievement both for 2024 and 2025 for a number of different subgroups that we monitor. And here you'll see race, gender, gifted and talented, if they're eligible for free reduced lunch, if they have an IEP or not. And here that continues in terms of our disaggregation. And there's language status that is broken out on the left-hand side. And this, when you think about kids who take access tests, there are the kids who are in NEP and LEP. But when you think about the progression of language acquisition, it starts from non-English proficient all the way to former English language learner. I know that FEL category right there in the middle, I wish I had a little pointer, is in the middle, but and it's because at the state they code it number 5, but it actually should be coded number 9, I think, which is the highest rate. And that former English language learner is the designation when a student is considered to be as fluent in English as a fluent English speaker might be. So when you look at the percent, where's my glasses? Over here. The percent who are meeting or exceeding grade levels for our former English language learners, I still can't see that, 53.8%, which is closer than when you look over here at white students, 60.3%. Of course, the N is different, right? The number of students, 998 students here, our former English language learners here is 40 students. So you need to take that into context. But the reason I bring that up is because it's oversimplifying if we're looking at just the Hispanic or Latino race and as compared to white, because of the fact that a wide range of language learners are actually included in the larger group, Hispanic or Latino. So I do think it's important to actually look at by language status. We do monitor it. And I do also want to say, regardless of that, 37.3% is not high enough. And so that is something that we continue to focus on improving. But what we don't want to do is have an incomplete picture or analysis of the data and draw conclusions based on incomplete information. So I think that's important there. In terms of I talked about this already, in terms of the now what, so what here, we are, of course, continue to make sure our curriculum is strong, our instruction is strong, interventions are strong in the classroom. CMAS math, overall 28% of RFSD students met or exceeded grade level expectations. It's a moderate increase from 2024. I wanted to highlight just our 4th grade year over year change. There's an increase of 12 percentage points from year to year for that 4th grade class. 8th grade cohort improvement as well at 6.4%. When we look at growth here as well, growth exceeds
Those are these slides over here, the median growth percentile. It exceeds pre-pandemic levels for all the subgroups, except for males and gifted students. That is off by 1 point, so we're almost there. Otherwise, you can see that it exceeds the state in growth for all subgroups there. Similarly with ELA, we're making sure that we're actually in our third year now this year of K-8 illustrative math curriculum implementation, making sure all kids have access to rigorous tasks in the classroom and that our pacing is tight. And of course, continue to build our leader and teacher knowledge on understanding our progress monitoring data, specifically through NWA. Science, I'll spend really briefly, not too long here. This is the second year where we have information in our performance framework. Next year, we'll have our third year, and this is a test that 5th, 8th, and 11th graders take. Moderate increases from the previous year, a slight decrease for 11th grade. You can see that both achievement and participation. And then finally, our high school students take the PSAT and SAT, the EBRW, which is evidence-based reading and writing, and then also math. The percentage of students meeting or exceeding benchmark here is less than the state average. We have about 54 to 55% of students across 9th, 10th, and 11th grade meeting or exceeding grade level expectations. And for the state, it's between 54% and 61% to 65%. Here, in terms of growth and achievement, you'll see similar. I am going to actually, just for the board, take a closer look at some of these numbers because I know they're not all of them actually add up to the right equivalent numbers, and so I just wanted to name that. But in terms of growth, if you look at the median growth percentiles here, specifically for evidence-based reading and writing, a couple of highlights are in 10th grade EBRW, which is this one right over here. Students with disabilities are 11 percentage points higher than in pre-pandemic. All of those subgroups not quite yet at pre-pandemic level. So it's something we're continuing to work on. For 11th grade EBRW, we have our male students meeting growth percentile 7 percentage points higher than pre-pandemic. And that's this slide over here. And there's a number of areas where we have a higher median growth percentile than the state, but it doesn't include actually our targeted subgroups, which of course include our minority students, Hispanic students, multilingual learners, students with disabilities. Our high school teams are continuing their course alignment work with tighter alignment in middle school to high school. Another highlight here is that our median growth percentile actually for students with disabilities and those and not are matching here. And then finally, we have our PSAT math performance. We do have growth information for 9th grade math. The CMAS 8th grade math is linked to 9th grade math PSAT performance. We have stronger math performance in 10th grade. We have 40% compared to 36%. It's comparable in 9th grade here. In our high schools, again, this is very similar. I'm not going to actually go through all of these, but you have it here. There's a focus on ensuring that kids have algebra every day across all of our high schools. It wasn't across all of our high schools and all of our classes previously. It is. We have 10th grade math with stronger math performance year over year. The median growth percentile is still lower than we would like it to be and not at pre-pandemic levels yet. And we have steady improvement in 11th grade math. For most of the subgroups, it exceeds pre-pandemic levels, but we still have continued areas of focus, especially for our multilingual learners and our students with IEPs. Sorry, that was a lot. Pretty fast. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you, team. Each board member will now have 2 minutes to share comments or ask questions. We will begin with Director Kohlberg.
Thank you. Thank you all of you. Thanks to all of you for the presentation and the deep dive into the data in the work session. I really appreciate having this level of data presented. Do you have questions about the disaggregation? Because the numbers just don't add up. I can't figure out how they're adding up. So I'd love to see that when it's cleaned up. I have a specific question about the enrollment. Obviously, it's concerning that we're down so many kids and there are so many different reasons, specifically in our valley. With the Two Rivers Community School numbers, do we suspect that the increase is kids from our district, or are they kids from RE2? Or do we have any way of knowing?
We don't have a way of knowing yet, but October count, we should be able to see that. And
Okay.
so we'll be able to do more in-depth comparison at that point, and I'll make a note to make sure that we look at in-district, out-of-district enrollment at
Okay.
that point.
Okay. That was my only question I wrote down. I think I had everything else addressed in work session on the data. And I applaud the work that we're doing around services to wrap around our families and understand what's going on with while they're transitioning. And I think it's going to be a little bit of community catch up and realizing that our birth rates are declining precipitously and housing is becoming such a pinch point that it's going to impact our schools. So I think it's a reckoning for all of us. And it's tough, but I appreciate you guys being proactive and addressing it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Tyler.
I would like to start off by saying thanks for all the information that was in this presentation. I know for you, Dr. Park, it was a lot of number crunching and a lot of looking at that and organizing. So thank you for all that work. And I do have some questions about that also though, but first of all, Chief Medina, thank you for all the work that you are putting in to wrap around our students and highlighting those important parts that are often not seen. And so great job for all those volunteers participating with us. First of all, I would like to start with saying that as a whole, our data has been very positive, that we've shown a lot of growth, which to me shows that we're doing a lot of right things within our district overall for our students for the academic growth. And so I applaud that we've had growth in all of our pretty much subsets, especially on the CMAS. With that taken into account, we're still having that achievement gap between many different subgroups, but especially between our language learners and our white students. And even though there had been growth, academic achievement higher, the academic achievement for our white students has outpaced the academic achievement for our language learners. And so although everybody is getting higher, that gap is just continuing to widen. And so we're doing the right things, obviously academically. We need to still find some focus, look at what do we need to do and what do we need to change and what kind of things do we need to put in motion that is going to help close that gap. And so I really look forward to the conversation that we'll be having around this, but it's a time for celebration, but also a pause to say there's still things that we need to address specifically.
Thank you. Director?
Great, thank you. I have a few questions on Dr. Park's report first. Is it a goal of the districts to be accredited with distinction in the future? Is that a meaningful goal to try to achieve? And is that something the leadership team talks about or aspires to?
Yes, it is both. And it's actually just for districts.
That's what when I say school, yeah, I meant districts. What would it take for us to get to that from where we are today?
Well, there are a number of metrics on the performance framework that's calculated. So it's the accumulation of those points. You can see that in order to achieve what's blue status, accredited with distinction, you would need to have a total of at least 74 points. So we're just over 58 right now. But I would say it's a combination of achievement, improving that across our subgroups, because you can see sort of the points distribution there. We can also make sure that we have strong growth across all of our subgroups and all of our levels. But there's not one category that's like, oh, if we just did this, because one category is not worth 20 points or 10, so it's a combination of that to achieve accredited with distinction.
Okay. I'm curious how you all are thinking about how we will continue to stay green or even grow toward the blue in a resource constrained environment.
That's such a good question. we are one of the most poorly funded states when it comes to education. And so at baseline, we're working with limited resources and I think accomplishing a lot. We know that our staff are not, our salaries are below what is a livable wage in the Valley. And so I appreciate the question. I mean, it's real for us as we are trying to, in one meeting, we're talking about enrollment and impacts on resources and also talking about where our student performance data is. It's not always a direct line that investments always result in stronger student outcomes, but you see funding helps and it does make a difference in terms of what we're able to do. When I spoke to some of the contingency plans, we made significant reductions in expenditures last year to address some of the financial challenges. And where we go from here in terms of reducing expenses, it just gets harder. And there are things that we can look at in how we allocate funding to schools. I mean, 85% of our budget goes to humans and goes to staff. And so if we're going to have to address some of these challenges, that's one of the areas we look at, especially when we feel like we've cut a lot of that other 15%. I don't have a great answer. I mean, we're trying to hold it all. We're interrogating, do our current staffing ratios, are they resulting in the student outcomes we want and we need? Can those be adjusted without impacting student support services and family support services and without impacting the day-to-day experience of our students? And so I think it's a great question that we're grappling with, and we absolutely feel limited in terms of, I'll be honest, like the amount of time that our senior leadership team has spent since July talking about budgets and contingency plans. Would I much rather we're talking about this student data? Absolutely. It causes us to reallocate our time, our resources in trying to solve it. And it distracts us from our core work. And so the challenge is, how do we keep our eyes on what's possible? And we know we know that our kids can do this work, and we know that we have the right staff to do it. And my goodness, do we have the right families? And we have to figure out then how to meet our kids and our families where they're at, keep our classrooms at this high level of rigor, make sure our kids are there and have all the supports to go with us and keep climbing. So I think how we continually are asking those questions. How can we streamline? How can we really focus on what works? I'll be honest, in our strategic leadership team meeting this week, one of the celebrations was, it's so nice to have a strategic plan because we can say no to things that aren't high leverage, and it helps us stay focused. And I think as we navigate the challenges ahead, it is continuing to focus on what's working and how do we do just that without all the other things. But it's going to be hard.
Okay. Thanks for that. When you look at all the green on the table, which is great, on the chart, I'm curious to what extent you feel like that's all being driven by, not all, but to some extent the success is being driven by building leaders and strong school cultures. And then the question is, like, if a school leader leaves, do you feel like we have the systems in place to continue to stay in the green and make progress? Or do you feel like the district is reliant on a set of kind of unicorn staff leaders that are hard to replace, and then the systems aren't there if they do leave?
That's a good question. When you say green, I'm assuming
green,
like the frameworks.
on the frameworks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we didn't have existing structures like collaboration structures or levels meetings or like coaching approach district-wide, or like monthly leadership PD, like all those things. And I would say, yeah, you know what? We have 14 individual schools that do whatever they want, right? And like that,
Yeah.
and that would be a scary thing. But I actually think a lot of it, right? We have common curriculum, we have common expectations, we have content leads that help align across all of our schools. So I think it's a combination. I certainly do think there is strength in a strong, of course, the teacher in the classroom and the leaders and other staff that are supporting kids. And it's important to hire well, develop well, you know, and do that. I think a lot of it is baked into our systems, but it does also require people to maintain the work. We wouldn't be in a good space if it is all dependent on a unicorn person. And I do think we have a lot of talent, and so we're able to collectively improve. And I do think a real highlight of Roaring Fork Schools is the level of collaboration between leaders. No one is just, I'm going to do this thing and hide it. Everyone is just collaborates very openly with one another. And I think that's a thing that's embedded. It's a practice that's embedded.
Okay.
I would just add to that. I mean, Dr. Park has really helped us strengthen systems around supporting leaders in terms of like everything from hiring to coaching to onboarding. And she is absolutely codifying these things into new systems and practices and process tools. I mean, I would state that one of the things it's incredible, you're spot on, Director After, that like the leaders really matter and high quality school leaders are essential to driving student outcomes. 2 of the schools that moved into green this year had brand new leaders last year, Basalt Middle School and Gloman Springs Middle School. I think it's a real testament to the leadership of Dr. Park, of Executive Director of Schools Joel Hathaway, to the collective teams of the collaborative teams of those, like our middle school levels, that made sure that those new leaders felt supported. They felt like they could push, they could move. Those schools hit the ground and just lifted, which is hard. And it wouldn't have been possible without strong systems. And so I think that's a real testament to the systems that have been built. And it's one of the things that I know that Dr. Park talks a lot with her team and is really living it, is that the way we support leaders and all our staff is with high expectations and high support, so that folks know they are one quick phone call away with a thought partner, somebody to show up in their building, help them work through an issue, help push them on their data, help build consistency and routines. And we also have really high expectations for what we expect of them.
Great. Thanks. Just a couple more for me. The IEP data on the tables, do you have any way to disaggregate that so that, or is IEP just lumped in? Because an IEP can cover quite a diverse range of academic circumstances. Is that the only way to view the data on IEPs?
Unless we're looking at individual student level and all 750 of them.
Okay.
We don't have an efficient way to do that.
Okay. Thanks. And then Kelly, I had 2 questions for you. One is, can you just remind us what the circle of parents is? And then the second is, I just want to make sure I understood that we provide wraparound services when students disenroll or unenroll. Is that what you were saying, or are the wraparound services related to enrolled students, or both?
That's a good question because it's all case by case. But to the circle of parents question, it's a peer support group. And it's really grounded in the protective factors framework, where instead of having the facilitator kind of drive the agenda and drive the work, their first couple of sessions is like learning about the families. And then it's really a community of support, where our program right now is focused on early childhood families. And so it's just kind of building a village for those families of like, if I need help with my child who's in preschool and transitioning into kinder, like I have a friend that I can phone now. And in these circles, they talk about how hard parenting could be, or just like transitioning into schools as their children get older, or they just pick their own topics. Like sometimes like we want to talk about, how do I talk to my principal with a really hard conversation? So it's really driven by the parents, the same way that the Family Advisory Council and Equity Advisory Council are, except that the facilitator kind of steps back a little bit more. And to the question of like, do we support students who are unenrolled or enrolled? I think part of our dropout prevention strategy is that even if a student has unenrolled, we try to keep eyes on them in hopes that they'll come back, or that we can make a plan for them to transition either to the neighboring school districts or whatever program that would be beneficial to them. And that's really rare when it does happen, but it has happened. But typically when students are enrolling, we use our welcome protocol. The that they step into the building and they enroll and complete their registration, somebody has eyes on them, and it's a tedious and really intentional process to where the family doesn't feel like the student's just being put in the classroom. We've already assessed them and we've provided resources for them already. So it's a little bit of both depending on the situation.
That's great. Thank you. Sorry for all the questions.
Did you say you had more questions? Or?
No, I said sorry for all the questions.
Oh, no, you're fine. Director DeFreitas?
Are you guys able to hear me okay? Thank you all so much for this. We did go into it quite a bit in the work session, which I appreciate. I think these presentations to the board have grown tremendously. I think if we saw these a few years ago, 10 years ago, they wouldn't look the same. And that is definitely a credit to leadership that's taking a different approach to what this means for our students. I think at the building level and the teacher level, I know that we have engaged with data as a district at that level a lot. I just really want to celebrate the change that we're seeing, using it to drive instruction from the big picture, from the 30,000-foot view, which as a board, of course, is where we often stay and should stay. And so it's really helpful. So thank you. I also want to just say that we need to remember in moments like this that two things can be true at once. We can wholeheartedly celebrate the growth and the achievements that we've seen in this data, the story that it's telling about these incremental improvements in so many different categories and populations. And we can also continue to hold ourselves accountable. And I think it's really important as leadership right now to recognize that a false dichotomy where it can be only one or the other will not serve our students or our communities in the long term. With that being said, math. I would love to hear a little bit more about what our district is doing to address some of the scores that we do see that are really not where they should be, as you all identified. So talk to me about that roadmap that I know we're working on.
Sure. Let me just go down to my notes. In terms of CMAS, for 3rd through 8th grade elementary and middle schools, we are in our 3rd year of our illustrative math curriculum, which is actually what we now have K-12 for the first time, actually for the 3rd year now. But we're continuing to make sure that implementation is going strong, and so that includes implementation walkthroughs. Are all the core components there? Is the pacing actually aligned across so that we know that kids are getting all the content that they're expected to during the year? And then, of course, just standard strong teaching practices. This illustrative math curriculum is a new kind. It's a shift actually from what we had previously done, and it is a lot more where students are discussing how to solve the problem and approach to the problem versus rote memorization. So just making sure it's implemented actually fully. We're also continuing to make sure that our in-year measures, which are the NWA map growth, beginning, middle, and end of year, that teachers are able to interpret, understand it, and respond to it, because that information is obviously going to come much more frequently than our state tests do at the end of the year. We're also researching just high quality math fluency practice. We use some, but actually connecting that with what we see in NWA. So it's targeted sort of learning paths. That's one thing, as well as math interventions. We have a lot of time, money, and talent invested in literacy interventions and less so in math interventions. And so that is an area where we've identified we need to actually build that up. And so that for elementary, middle, also for high school. And then I did share where all of our high schools now do have algebra every day. And so every section of algebra is held every day. Almost every other class, because it's on a block schedule, it's every other day. But algebra is one where they have it every day. And then also an analysis of just, is there equivalent time between our similar courses across high schools, so that we know that kids are getting somewhat even amounts of time for the similar courses at different schools. So we're looking at time, structures, resources, responding to data.
Thank you. That's helpful. Yeah, as with all of these other gaps that we identify, making sure that we're changing to make change, but not just for the sake of it. So I really appreciate your approach there. It looks like it's measured, and I hope that we continue to see improvement, because those numbers we can't continue to stay there. Dr. Cole, can I just ask a general question? Do you feel like our community knows what it needs to know about the implications of this data? Because for everyone listening and for those interested, the data dashboard will be updated soon. You can tell me when, I don't remember, but that's new. We have it now. We should all be using it. But if there was one piece of information that perhaps the Roaring Fork Valley or interested stakeholders should know about this information, I don't know, take the floor. What would it be if you had a soundbite for people?
Thank you. I think I think at a very high level takeaway, what we're pulling in a 1 or 2 sentences is that things are starting to trend in the right direction. And we're starting to see really promising signs of systemic improvements. And we still have a long way to go.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And the incremental improvements show us that we're on the right track and that we need to continue in the work that we're doing. So I appreciate that work.
Thank you. I will echo just some of the gratitude. Superintendent Cole brought up during our work session. We reviewed this earlier today of the experience I had, particularly as a new board member, and asking for disaggregated data a lot. And really the push coming when Director Teitler and Director Klulenberg joined at having that first real opportunity to see a breakdown. And I feel like every year we have gotten better and better at it. There is a focus of using it and utilizing it for the benefit of our students. I've appreciated so much our thoroughness and us being willing to dig deeper every time. And I think it really has shifted for the board as well at how we not only review it, but what we're learning from it. And so I appreciate that commitment from our team. I did want to follow up on just a couple of things to the conversation on the systems change. And I did ask this question in the work session, but I just wanted to follow up. I think it's important to say during board meeting that there was a commitment to codify some of these systems. I think we've all said it before. We know our tenure is not forever. And so to be able to have a commitment to that is incredibly important. And for the board as well to know that that there is a process that should be happening behind the scenes to make sure that we are being thorough is also important. So I just wanted to ask a follow-up on how the Learning Acceleration Plan contributed to these outcomes.
Sure. When we actually laid out what the additional supports would be at schools, part of it was rounding out the intervention support at our elementary schools for to make sure we have the staff to provide it. Having deans of culture at our middle and high schools to support students, increase engagement, reduce suspensions, improve culture. But most importantly, make sure kids are in class because they can't learn if they're not there. And ensuring that we have CLDE coaches and support at our schools, and this is a common misconception, I think, it's not to teach just ELD classes or support just teachers teaching ELD, but actually to support teachers across all the content areas to support students throughout the rest of the day and provide and improve access there. Those are 3 key things. There are more actually embedded there, but those are 3 of the most controversial, I think, of the parts of the Learning Acceleration Plan. And I think you can see over time where we've had dramatically reduced our suspension rates. We're still working on our attendance. That's going to take time as well. And I think we know it is a work in progress for sure. But improving our sort of approach and the ways that we think about supporting all of our students in the classroom throughout the rest of the day and not have language supports just be a thing on the side where we do for 45 minutes and then just not think about it. But those have all contributed positively to where we are now in terms of students growing. Another big component of the Learning Acceleration Plan is really an intentional focus on improving instructional coaching across all of our schools, across all of our leaders, to continue to grow and develop and invest in our talent. Because it has a direct impact on our students.
And I would just name that every one of those kind of bullet points that Dr. Park just listed are now integrated and a part and parcel of the strategic plan. So in a lot of ways, right, the Learning Acceleration Plan made some initial investments, say, in deans and coaches. The strategic plan now picks those groups up as responsible for driving initiatives that are tied to concrete outcomes for students. So in a lot of ways, the legacy of that Learning Acceleration Plan is now codified in the strategic plan and is now going to be monitored and measured through our implementation of it. And so it's interesting, and I appreciate the push around that question of that Learning Acceleration Plan. Where did it go? What did we do with it? Because it has now been fully integrated into the strategic plan. And so I think as this work continues, we head into year 2 of the strategic plan, you're going to see those echoes and amplification of some of those initiatives that started in that Learning Acceleration Plan and are now tight in the strategic plan, tied to initiatives, tied to outcomes, tied to accountability.
Thank you. And speaking of the strategic plan, I also wanted to see how we're addressing the gap in the IEPs group specifically. I know that there must be something that we are using to address that. I think it's important to lift that.
Yeah, we did the external program review, and we have, for right now, there were some particular action steps identified in that. And so one of the things we're doing this year is we have four leadership PD sessions specifically focused on special education leadership and to make sure that our leaders are able to lead effectively in terms of the programs and compliance and information and success for students with disabilities there. Or also in terms of small group differentiated instruction, that is a skill and content that our special education department is also, specially designed instruction for our special education department, and overall just having a better awareness and understanding of not just the compliance and procedures piece, but also just how to really effectively serve our students with disabilities. So that is also embedded in our daily lesson design.
And just a preview, the September 24th board meeting and work session will be when the board will hear from PCG on that special education program review, both in the work session and the formal meeting. So we'll have a lot more of a deep dive into special education at that point.
Perfect. Thank you. Just one follow-up question from Director After's question. Director Medina, congratulations on launching the Circle of Parents. When we communicate these 3 groups to community, what are the key differences we're highlighting for each of them? For the Family Advisory Council and Equity Advisory Council.
So Circle of Parents is really based on referrals from liaisons that are working directly with the family. And then the Family Advisory Council, we send out an invitation in the community newsletter. And we also do like one-on-one outreach where if families who we're working with were interested in doing more leadership opportunities, we'll invite them. And school leaders are also advising parents like, hey, we're doing our SACs and there's also another district opportunity too for you to have leadership in. Family Advisory Council is more open-ended where parents are choosing their topics and kind of driving the agenda. And the Equity Advisory Council is more of a close-knit. It takes a lot of work to build trust in that group because there's students and there's parents, and that takes a 2-year commitment, and that's a little bit more intentional and more of an invitation versus like a big group because we want to maintain the consistency, especially when we're training the students and parents on how to read policy and how it impacts and how they can get feedback. So the Family Advisory Council is open to the community versus Equity is very intentional for a reason because we want to make sure that parents stay committed to the policy work and the students too, in hopes of then hopefully graduating them into the district DAC or potentially having them run for the school board too. So that's kind of why it's a little bit more tight, the Equity Advisory Council.
To follow up on that, can you share about the commitment to have representation from across the district?
So we've gotten better every year. So we try to invite community partners that have a direct through line to the work, like Valley Settlement. We have some CD representation just because of their parent engagement. we invite students from their equity student councils or their superintendent student council. So Dr. Cole will go to the high schools and have lunch-ins with the students. And if students are interested, that's kind of how we recruit students into the Equity Advisory Council. This year, the deans have done a lot of work too in student leadership. And so they're actually taking a group of students to Denver this month to train them on through a youth Celebrate Diversity program, in hopes of when they want to start the Equity Advisory Council, they're a little bit more trained up than they have been previously. And that's done intentionally because then they feel like they have tools to then commit to the group. And then they kind of are the ambassadors for their school, that they go back to their student groups and then report back the work that they're doing.
Great.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much. Directors, we will now have 5 minutes for open discussion. Does anyone have any follow-up questions or comments?
I do have one, please. As I look at the strategic plan data dashboard, and I'm looking at results there, they don't correlate with the numbers that we have in the data that was just presented to us. And so can we figure out how to get those together and have
I think they said it wasn't updated yet. The new
it says
data.
24-25 on there,
Oh, it does.
and it shows that being the case. And so I can give you an example of where if you would like, but at least on the meeting expectations in EBRW, those numbers don't match with the numbers that we were just presented.
We will look into that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Are there other ones you're seeing other than that big one?
I don't know. I just looked specifically at that one and they're off by multiple percentage points.
Okay, and I gotcha. On the annual measures component, is that where you're at?
Meeting expectations in EBRW, it shows 54, 61, 58 for 9-10 SAT.
Okay,
And those don't match. The 54 does, but the 61, 58 don't match.
got it. Okay.
Any other directors have follow-up questions or comments? I just want to echo gratitude for our vital community partners, including but not limited to Valley Settlement, Mountain Family Health Center, Stepping Stones, Aspen Hope Center, Promise 54. A lot of these partners that we rely on for support, for programming for our students, for after-school programs, for school-based therapy programs and crisis response. We, as a school district, benefit from strong relationships with these vital community partners, and we are full of gratitude for their commitment to work with us in serving students across the district. Thank you, team. Okay. Okay, at this time, we welcome members of the public who have signed up to address the board. There are 3 speakers signed up tonight. The board allots 45 minutes for public comment. To respect the time of all who are present, speakers are to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Reminder to all speakers to uphold our procedures for public comment. We ask you to be thoughtful and constructive with your comments, and thank you in advance for sharing your feedback. Members of the public who wish to share their views with the board may also do so in writing at any time. For this evening's public comment, we received 0 written comments. Our first speaker is Monica Muniz.
Hello, my name is Monica Muniz, and I have lived in Cavern Springs Mobile Home Park for 34 years. I am here to help keep my community affordable and to create a resident-owned community. This matters to me because I've raised my children here, and we have made our homes here. It's not just about owning the land under our homes. It's about continuing to create our own space and to keep building our community. We are concerned with a large out-of-state corporation coming in every 4 years and trying to raise our rent and displace the families that work hard and that add value to the community, as this seems to be a trend. We know that we haven't been getting the publicity as the other trailer parks in the valley, and nor the funds. But that is okay because we are continuing to pursue funding. We put out a survey, and this is what we collected. 96% of the residents indicated that a rent increase would have a significant strain on their family's budget. 70% are concerned that they won't be able to find affordable housing in the valley if they are forced to move out. 51% are concerned that they would be forced out of the park due to a new owner. And 51% are concerned that the uncertainty revolving around sale of the park. This includes the children. The children in our community are worried and ask their parents, if we can't afford our rent, where will we move to? They need a stable environment to succeed in school. We have 20 children in the Roaring Fork Elementary Schools. We have 20 children in the middle schools and 21 students in the Roaring Fork High Schools. That is $61,000 that the Roaring Fork School District schools would lose if we are displaced and need to move out of our district, out of the state, so on and so forth. We have families who care for disabled individuals and children, veterans, retired families, business owners, teachers, and many children who go to school and preschools throughout the valley. We are committed to preserving the love and beauty that the valley holds by being outstanding members. We would like to have the security and the responsibility of making decisions for our mobile home park for years to come. And some of our residents also work for the Roaring Fork School District, contributing to daily function. We want to demonstrate that we are allies in being part of the solution. We are asking for your support by backing us in a letter, by writing this letter of your support to help us influence and convince the county and investors to achieve purchasing our mobile home park. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Glenda Pinela.
Pineda, yeah.
Pinela.
Good afternoon. My name is Glenda Pineda, and I am a sophomore at Glenwood Springs High School. I've lived in Cabin Springs mobile home with my family for over than 5 years. And it's not just a place where to live in. I feel safe, and I've made many memories with my family and neighbors. When I heard our place was being put out for sale, I panicked. I asked myself, what will happen to us? Where will we go? The stress became so heavy that it started affecting my education. Being a student already is stressful. Homework, tests, figuring out my future, but add the fear of losing our home on top of all that. It's a lot, and sometimes no student, I'm sorry, but no student should go through this. Being a student is already hard, but carrying the fear of losing your home, making it so much harder. Cabin Springs is not just a mobile home park, it's a community. I want to focus on school without worrying if my family will not have a home tomorrow. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Kenya Pinela.
Good afternoon. Sorry, let me just compose myself. I'm Kenya Pinela. I am the Director of Programs and Innovation at Valley Settlement. We are a nonprofit that's been in the Valley for quite some time now. And so we are able to work alongside the school district by providing some of our programs and work in collaboration. But I'm here today just really in appreciation primarily for our Paramentor program. Just a huge shout out to Anna, a huge shout out to Kelly, to Christy. It has been such a pleasure to work alongside this team and to work alongside this district over the last 10 years. And I don't have the opportunity to name everyone, but just a big thank you to the 7 principals in the 7 elementary schools who have welcomed our Paramentor program over the last 10 years. It's been amazing to be able to see growth in parent engagement, primarily the Latino community, and to be able to just allow more space for Latinos to engage in elementary school settings. And alongside that, our amazing work that we get to do with the Family Resource Center, being able to work in collaboration with Kelly and her team is huge. And Glenda's story is a prime example of that. Because families are going through a tough moment right now. And so it really takes a village to ensure that all children in the Roaring Fork School District feel safe and have the resources that are needed. So just a huge thank you. We need a lot more resources to make sure that all our children are safe and can go to school and just focus in school. So huge thank you as a partner. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I move on the agenda, I just want to say thank you to everyone present tonight. We are going to be making a motion to move a proclamation up. So we do ask you guys to stay if you could. We appreciate your time tonight and being here at our board meeting. We don't get a lot of people who attend, so we're always very appreciative when we have community members here. Can I call for a motion before the consent agenda?
Can I make a motion to move item number 10, proclamation celebrating Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month, up ahead of the consent agenda?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, team. So we're going to just go ahead and move into the next business of order, which is the approval of a proclamation celebrating Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month. Do I have a motion to approve the proclamation celebrating Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month?
I move that the board approve the proclamation celebrating Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Each board member will now have 2 minutes to share comments or questions. We will begin with Director Kronberg.
Sorry, Megan. I don't have too much on this. I appreciate that we do this annually. I know that this is a very small thing that our board does, but it was meaningful for us to start this within the last couple of years to recognize a significant portion of our population in our school communities. And while it isn't massive and it isn't a huge shift, it is a token of how this board feels and what this board values. So I hope that it means something, and we hope that our staff and schools also incorporate some of the things listed here into their lessons and days throughout the next month and throughout the whole school year.
Thank you. Director Tytler?
I would like to agree with that and just say the part of the proclamation that strikes me most strongly is saying that as a district, we support diversity and equity and inclusion, and that we believe, as it says in this proclamation, that a student whose history and heritage are appreciated and celebrated will learn better and be more successful. And understanding that the percentage of our district that is made up of Latinx students is over 50% of our school population is something that we should be celebrating and appreciating every day.
Thank you, Director After.
Yes, just to second my colleagues and their comments so far, I appreciate that. We got this on the agenda and agree that it's a token, and the real work is in the policies that are described here, as well as the resource allocation. as well as closing the achievement gap and hiring and many other parts of the ecosystem. So grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this team.
Director DeFreitas.
Thank you to the team who worked on getting this together and bringing it forward today. I just wanted to emphasize what Directors Tytler and Actor have already said and fully stand by all of the policies listed here for diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. And I am proud to be a district that can put things out like this in public and back them up with our actions, our priorities, our data-driven discussions, our stakeholder relationship building, as best we can. Two things can be true. We can do it well, and we need to do it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Yo voy a hacer unos comentarios en español. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Sé que no son las mejores, que digamos, condiciones estar aquí presente en esta junta. Es muy infrecuente que viene nuestra comunidad y entonces para mí es un orgullo que ustedes estén aquí a escuchar esta proclamación en celebración de nuestra cultura, de nuestra gente, de nuestra comunidad, que es increíble, importante para este distrito escolar. Director Tyler, will you please read the proclamation in Spanish?
Yes. Y antes que lea, quiero decir también que aunque estamos haciendo esta proclamación para este mes, quiero que sepan que no es nada más este mes que estamos celebrando, es el año entero. Y aunque estamos diciéndolo por este mes, es más que este mes. Resolución de la Junta de Educación de las Escuelas de Roaring Fork en honor al mes de herencia hispana y latina. Considerando que cada año Estados Unidos celebra el mes nacional de la herencia hispana que comienza el 15 de septiembre y se extiende hasta el 15 de octubre, celebramos la cultura, la herencia y las innumerables contribuciones de las comunidades hispana y latina a nuestro país. Y considerando que reconocemos que dadas las dificultades y disparidades que enfrenta la comunidad hispana y latina, esta resolución es solo un pequeño paso de los muchos que debemos dar para ser verdaderamente inclusivos y solidarios con nuestros estudiantes hispanos y latinos y sus familias y considerando que 56% de los estudiantes matriculados en el distrito escolar de Roaring Fork son hispanos y latinos y que el español es el segundo idioma más hablado en el distrito. Y considerando que creemos que nuestra diversidad es una fortaleza donde las diversas etnias y culturas de nuestros estudiantes crean ricas experiencias educativas y culturales para toda la comunidad escolar. Y considerando que seguimos comprometidos a servir, inspirar y promover el éxito de los estudiantes al tiempo que mejoramos la equidad estudiantil y el acceso a una educación de alta calidad. Y ahora, por lo tanto, sea resultado que la Junta Directiva de la Escuela de Roaring Fork por la presente declara del 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre como el mes de la herencia hispana y latina en el distrito escolar Roaring Fork en reconocimiento y celebración de las muchas contribuciones de la comunidad hispana y latina a nuestro país, estado y el Valle Roaring Fork. Se ha resuelto además que la Junta Directiva de las Escuelas de Roaring Fork apoya la implementación por parte del distrito de la política de la Junta ADB y la regulación ADBR, diversidad, equidad, inclusión y antirracismo, que establece que la Junta cree que la responsabilidad del éxito de los estudiantes es ampliamente compartida por el personal del distrito, los administradores, los instructores, las comunidades y las familias. Y creemos que en un estudiante cuya historia y herencia son apreciadas y celebradas, aprenderá mejor y tendrá más éxito. Se ha resuelto además que la Junta Directiva de las Escuelas Roaring Fork aliente firmemente a la administración del distrito a asegurar el desarrollo e implementación de un plan integral en cada escuela del distrito para celebrar el mes de herencia hispana y latina. Este plan debe de incluir eventos culturales y celebraciones en las escuelas y la comunidad, integración curricular de la historia, cultura y contribuciones hispanas y latinas en todas las materias, desarrollo profesional para el personal sobre prácticas de enseñanza culturalmente receptivas y comprensión de las culturas hispanas y latinas, asociaciones, comunitarias con organizaciones hispanas y latinas locales para proporcionar recursos y apoyo a los estudiantes y las familias. Participación familiar, fomentar la participación de las familias en las actividades del mes de la herencia hispana y latina. Finalmente se resuelta además que la Junta Directiva de las Escuelas de Roaring Fork alienta firmemente el liderazgo, las escuelas y el personal del distrito a observar, reconocer y celebrar la cultura, el patrimonio y las contribuciones de la escuela, de la comunidad hispana y latina a nuestro país, nuestro estado, nuestras ciudades y escuelas con estudiantes del distrito. Adoptada y aprobada este 10 de septiembre de 2025.
Gracias. Thank you, Director Tyler. Sabemos que si se tienen que ir, están bienvenidos a quedarse, pero entendemos. Okay. Muchas gracias. Okay, the next business in order is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes routine personnel. Oh, yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I knew I was skipping a step. I was too eager. Okay, are there any intervening motions to amend? No, thank you. Can we call for a vote?
Director After,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas,
Aye.
Director Cook,
Aye.
Director Ramirez,
Aye.
Director Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder, Donna. Okay, the next business in order is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes routine personnel, minutes from our previous board meeting, and policies ACA, AC, JIH, regulations AC-R-1, AC-R-2, AC-R-3, and exhibits AC-E-1 and AC-E-2. Directors, are there any items that you would like to pull off the consent agenda for a separate discussion and vote? No, I can't see Lindsay, but I'm assuming no.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Okay, call for a vote.
Director After,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas. She may have stepped away. Director Kohlenberg, Director Ramirez, Director Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. The next business in order is discussion on policies JRA/JRC and BBA. Each board member will now have 2 minutes to share comments or ask questions. We will begin. I'm going to skip Director Tyler because he just had a holding director after. Thank you, Director Tyler.
Sure.
Oh, 1 second, please.
I can jump in if you want a minute and kind of go over what we talked about in policy committee with BBA.
That'd be great because I lost all my notes. So
Yeah,
I was
fine.
trying to go on the fly, but if you can give me a minute, that'd be great. Thank
Chair,
you.
is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have anything on, what's the code? JRC, JRA, JRC, because it's just a date change. We did spend a good amount of time talking about BBA and policy committee and, no longer Chief Landon, Mr. Landon, Jonathan. Jonathan added, did go through the entire statute and created a list of board powers, authorities, duties. which was helpful and was at the bottom of this document. We decided that it wasn't the right place for that list to live, but we incorporated some of that language in the 8 points above to help make it clear what the board's primary functions and duties are. So this policy isn't all encompassing because that felt too complex and like it was getting way too specific. It is kind of the most important functions, it says in that third paragraph. So that's just kind of a background for it. We felt like it was important to update this and that perhaps that longer list lived in board training materials or the handbook or somewhere else.
Okay. Thank you, Director Tyler.
I don't have much to say on these policies except for I appreciate that that there was some policy wording specific to our district instead of just the CAN language. So I appreciate that we did have that conversation was had, and I like that language. And I was a little bit curious about number 8 a little bit, and what is that process for charter authorization? And because it seems like in the past, it's always just sort of been handed to us and we're like, yep, okay. And so, and this seems a little bit more saying that it's like our responsibility there. So I guess I would just like some more clarification on that.
Yeah, we have, our charter schools are up for authorization next year, like the contract will renew. We do have a responsibility to have an annual reporting process, and we need to facilitate, like that's on my list. And I've talked to the charter leaders about that we kind of lost that a little bit. We do have, I mean, and to be honest, and I think what we've replaced that with are those board visits. But then again, that reporting then is only done for the one board member who's visiting the school. So we could revisit that reporting process because it is in our policy. And I know the charter leaders have shared like, hey, we used to come and do this and we don't do this anymore. We only get one board member. So that is something that we could adjust and talk through of when we'd want to have that more kind of annual report, because you're right. Otherwise, there's not a lot of touch points.
And I think just some more back and forth conversation between the charters, and if it's just saying that it's the board that's needing to do that, because I know in the past when it has been brought up, there's been some friction there. So to have some kind of engagement process that would allow it to be discussed in a more integral way. I don't know, that's probably Spanish. More in a way that's more like open and organic, I guess is what I was trying to go out, instead of just like being, I don't know, it just seemed like it hasn't been presented in the right way in the past. And so I think that's something that we could work on.
I can tell you that the charter, our current charter leaders are very eager to work with you, to share information with you, are ready for that invite. So, we, Chief Chacoin and I actually meet with them next week on some finance stuff. We'll kick around brainstorm some ideas they have. We'll share with the board some potential options, timelines, what that could look like. I hear your recommendation on something informal, which might look like potential work session, something like that. And I'll work with Director Ramirez on some options.
Great, thank
scheduling.
Director After.
Great, thanks for the extra time. And Director Kuhlenberg, thanks for the background. That was my big picture question on BBA was kind of where'd this come from, and it doesn't feel comprehensive, and I think that's fine. Like I think the approach that you guys took makes a lot of sense. I don't like using these sessions for wordsmithing, but I did have one little wordsmith, which is under 7. It looks like, Jonathan, you had flagged that CASB recommends the word wishes of the public, which I kind of like better than concerns, because it's good for us to know what's going positive, what needs fixing. So I'll put in a plug to go back to the CASB language on that. Otherwise, I don't have any comments. And I don't have any comments on the other policy either. JRA.
Thank you. Is Director DeFreitas back on?
I think she had to step out.
No? Okay. I, so this was the first policy committee that I was a part of. Almost jumped in and I was like, nope, quorum. But I did have one question for financial measures. I know, like, I think my thing, especially when we put it in policy, it's like a forever thing. I just want to make sure that we're okay with that language. And so I know that this is the process we're in now, and I appreciate and I'm committed to that as a board member. I just wanted to flag that as a potential. And then I am fine with wishes for number 7. I would be fine with wishes and concerns because I think there are a lot of concerns that we should be addressing. And then for JRA, I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to make sure the team didn't feel like there was anything that we're doing that isn't in this document or any process.
Well, we went pretty deeply in this when it was first brought, was it in 2024? And really the only update was that none of us realized August has 31 days instead of 30, but we had that lengthy discussion on that. Now we know. Remember, that's the only change.
Okay. Okay, directors, we will now have 5 minutes for open discussion. Director Klulenberg, did you want to add comments?
Yeah, just related to Director Tytler's question about the board's duties as related to charter school renewal. There's a very specific process laid out in the statute with timelines. The board has to engage the public. So there should be public engagement sessions led by the board when we're talking about renewals and authorizations. And I want to encourage us to revisit those and ensure that we are in compliance when we're going through renewal. Because I don't think historically we've hit all those marks, and we should be. And it's laid out precisely how the board should be engaged and involved in that renewal and authorization process. And then in regards to your comment about finance, the financial point, I'm okay with it only because of the preamble to all of these is that the board considers that its most important functions fall into the following categories. So I don't see this as prescriptive policy in the way that our D policies, like our finance policies are. It's more that like overarching, this is what the board does sentiment than specific language.
Okay. And I did want to add just one comment about the charter school. Like we've had this conversation before about making sure we're prepared, right? About making sure that we start having conversations early on, as a team and also with the charter schools. And it's really important to consider that they have their own board, right? It's like we are a board who authorizes them, but they have a board. And so I think as we move forward, it's going to be really important for us to not only talk to their leadership, but consider that their leadership to their principals need to consider that conversation back to their leadership, because there has to be alignment between all parties involved. And so I would just encourage our team to be very thorough starting now of like, okay, what do we need to prep for? I think reauthorization doesn't happen until 2027. Is that right?
Correct. I'm actually looking at our 5-year board calendar because I was recently, to your point, Director Klulenberg, looking at those timelines. And so if you're in it, you can see where I've mentioned that like August to October, and that actually means this year we're having internal conversations and planning and laying out timelines. November, December of this year is when we are going to initiate conversations. Actually, maybe that is next year. We have a backwards planning timeline, but yeah, there's a lot of checkpoints. The DAC is involved. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces as we move into that, and wanting to create space for more of these informal conversations and visits and opportunities for our entire board to get to know the charters better instead of just who's kind of allocated to them. So we can, what I'm hearing from the board right now is just concerns, awareness. Let me work with the charter leaders, and maybe what we can have for all 3 boards is to really start putting together a timeline for the next, really what is 18 months to the contract renewal. because we're on the clock. So I'll work on that with the charter leaders because I think that would help everybody feel like we can see what's coming.
Great. Directors, 5 minutes. Oh, we're in 5 minutes for open discussion. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, team. The next business in order is a 2025 board election update from the district's designated election official, Jonathan Landon. Each board member will now have 2 minutes to share comments or questions. Actually, go ahead and do your up.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to bring you up to speed on the election. It's been an exciting time ever since we put out the call for nominations in early August. This is a fairly brief update. There's not too much to share. The process has gone really well. I just want to start out by thanking the candidates that came forward. It's really admirable to see people step up to serve their community in the way that these people are signing up for. I think all of you know what's involved in being a board member, and I have a lot of respect for people that step up in that way. So thank you. Here are the final candidates. These candidates in District A are Jody Barr and Tamara, goes by Tammy Nimmo. That is the district director Titler currently holds. And in District E, the 2 candidates are Elizabeth Taylor and Catherine Kuhlenberg, who's currently on the board. And the order of the names that you see on the screen are the order of the names that will be on the ballot. That was determined by a lot drawing that was held on September 2nd. And I'm in the process of approving the final ballot content with the 3 counties. I've approved 2 of the ballot proofs already, and I'm just waiting on 1 more county. And a very exciting event's coming up it says date to be determined. We do know now it's going to be October 2nd, right? At 6 p.m. here at the district office. And that's going to be sponsored by Roaring Fork Schools and the Roaring Fork CEA, Certified Community Education Association. I apologize. And so we're really looking forward to that. That will be an opportunity for members of the community to get to meet and to hear from the board candidates, answer some questions, make opening closing statements, and just get to know them a bit. And then, of course, the election's coming on November 4th. So that's where we're at with the process. It's about to get really exciting here, and I will open it up for questions.
Board members, are there any questions or comments on this item?
I'll start. Thank you for doing all this work, Jonathan. Really appreciate it. And thanks to the candidates who have stepped up. Appreciate that as well. Are you aware of any other candidate forums or besides the one we're hosting?
I believe I saw a candidate forum for RE2 in their announcement. Is that what you're speaking
No,
about?
I meant, are any of the media organizations hosting or others besides CEA?
Not that I've been made aware of.
Candidate forums. Okay. Because I feel like last time there were like 3.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Interesting. Okay.
Different election cycles.
Different election, different ballot, different election cycle. We are bound to be the most exciting thing.
And you remember the last one pretty well, I bet.
I do. Especially that one in Glenwood.
Typically CMC hosts a candidate forum.
Glenwood.
Roosevelt Library did.
Yeah. BEF did.
I don't think it was BEF. I actually think it was the library. Maybe it was
I think it
BEF.
was BEF.
I was there. I don't know. I remember watching you guys.
It's Mortgage Commons that
Large
Posted
and
it.
CMC did, yeah. And I want to say Aspen Public Radio did.
Yeah, and I believe one of the papers ran articles on each candidate last election. And I know there were articles that went through candidate information already as well.
Okay, well, if Hallie or Rich or any of our media leaders in the valley are listening, we encourage more opportunities for people to hear from the candidates. That's all.
Betsy.
Any other further questions or comments? Nope. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. The next business in order is board updates. We'll begin with Director Taylor.
I have, coming up on Friday, I'm gonna be going to a retreat for BOCES. And so we'll be having that retreat, which I'll be able to update you on soon. And as far as just some shout out thanks, I want to start with saying thank you to Valley Settlement for their parent mentor program. I know that was brought up, but when you think of 8,000 volunteer hours in our classroom, it's pretty astounding. And I got to be part of that program when I taught, and the win-win-win situation that comes out of that for the parents who get to be mentors, who get to see what's going on in the schools, who then get to bring that home to their families, to the students who have another face to look up to. We talk about matching demographics. It does that for us. And just for helping out with student achievement, and is just an incredibly powerful program. So thank you for the people who have done that. And then my other shout out, I wanted to say thank you to, and I want to say thank you for your leadership that you bring to our district, that I appreciate your sense of calm. I appreciate your 30,000 foot view, as we've talked about earlier, that you have your finger on the pulse of so many things happening. And I feel that your leadership allows for expression, it allows for transparency, it allows for people to express. And I feel like it makes a way that people are comfortable in their jobs and feel empowered. And so I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that to our district.
Thank you, Director After.
Yeah. I wanted to thank the board members because I think we pretty quickly pivoted committee roles since the last meeting, so quickly that I surprised Director Tyler by showing up at a internal BOCES working group session. So that was really instructive for me. And so thanks to the team for starting to bring me up to speed. I think there's going to be a pretty steep learning curve. So thanks in advance for the extra time that's going to take. And thank you, Kenny, for going on Friday when I can't. Appreciate that. That's the only update I have because I'm not doing finance committee, sadly, anymore. And yeah, I do want to really truly thank all the candidates who are coming forward to run for office. It's really meaningful. And we appreciate your willingness to put yourself out there. Also, thank you to the CMS community and the CRES community who both hosted back to school events yesterday. I wasn't able to go to CRES, but I heard it was really exciting. And so huge kudos to Kendall Riley over there for putting that on and going bigger than in years past. I think a lot of fun was had. And then to the CMS community, and especially the crew cooking dinner for lots and lots of families who came by to meet teachers, learn about upcoming field trips, spend time with friends, and to have a very tasty taco night last night. So thanks to the CMS crew. Director Colbert.
Sure. You guys get to hear my policy committee updates during the board meeting, so I don't have anything on that. We start the health insurance collaborative solutions team meets for the first time tomorrow, where we will begin to try to tackle health insurance and have those discussions. So I'll report back at our next board meeting on that one. I just had to look back at the list to see what else I'd signed up for. Classified IPP, we haven't started yet. So that's all I've got in terms of updates. In terms of appreciations, I wanted to give a shout out to Blazing Adventures for providing rafting trips for the third graders again in Basalt. They went last week. It's the kids' favorite trip every year. They all wait until third grade, bated breath for this trip. And they had a great time. So it seemed like a super successful day. I also wanted to give a shout out to our nurses and health aides who are managing a ton of back to school sickness. We're in week 3, which was when it all makes its way to all the children and shakes out to everybody. So they're working overtime right now. So just big thanks to them. They're a critical piece of our system and a connection point for our kids when they're at their lowest. So really wanted to thank them. And then final thanks for our early childhood staff. It's back in classrooms with new little ones, and settling new little ones into routine is a different level of challenge than older classrooms. So just wanted to give them a shout out because I'm in the same boat. Getting all those kids settled and into the classrooms is tough, and sometimes it's their first time, and I know how hard they're working right now. So just wanted to thank them for that.
Thank you. I just want to make sure, okay, Director DeFreitas. I wanted to just give an update. I was invited by CMC to attend a forum tomorrow with the consuls general of Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. So I'm looking forward to that and sharing some of the important data points that we've spoken about just recently in conversation on the impacts that we're seeing locally at the school district level. We had finance committee on Monday. Thank you, Director Tyler, for hopping on with me. I think it's incredibly important we continue that norm. I do think it's going to be important for us to codify these committees in some shape or form moving forward, just so that we're being proactive to make sure that these systems are codified. Appreciations. I just want to echo appreciations for all of our families, and our teachers, our nurses, all of our staff, and especially our volunteers. We are, at least at Glen Springs High School, we're going into homecoming. And I think it's incredibly important. It was part of our newsletter out to community this month. We at the Roaring Fork School District depend on volunteers at our schools. And so we encourage community to please get involved, to please sign up for the PTA, the PTO, the SAC, the DAC, FAB. We want community to become our primary partner in these spaces. And so we look forward to engaging better this year with community and making sure that our volunteers are not only appreciated, but that they know that the door is open for them at our schools. So thank you to our teams who continue to push forward. And thank you to our election, what is it? What's the title? DEO. For making sure that we are moving forward with this very important matter of having an election. I think it's incredibly important to have a DEO who knows the process. And so being able to codify that work and really lean into leaving it ready for whoever, whenever, has been an important work. So I appreciate so much the systems building that we're doing in that as well. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah. If there is no further business and there's no objection, the meeting will now be adjourned. It is 8:40 p.m.